We've been taught that crying means losing control, that the strongest people in any room are the ones whose faces never crack, whose voices never shake, who can sit through grief, conflict, even heartbreak without a single tear. But psychology is now telling us something almost nobody wants to admit. The people who cry the easiest are often the ones who understand life the most deeply. So why have we spent generations shamming them for it? Stick around, because the answer might completely flip how you see yourself or someone you love. Most of us learned the rule before we could even read. A skinned knee, a harsh word from a classmate, a feeling too big to hold inside, and somewhere along the way an adult told us to stop. Be tough, hold it together. That single instruction didn't disappear once we grew up. It became a quiet rulebook we still follow, one that says emotion is dangerous and visible emotion is humiliating. Boys hear it bluntly, girls hear it dressed differently. But the message lands the same way for everyone. Feelings are fine, as long as nobody sees them. So what happens to the people who never quite managed to follow that rule? The ones whose eyes welled up no matter how hard they tried to stop it? Many of them spent years being called overly emotional, too soft, too much. But here's what the research actually shows. Easy crying isn't a defect in character, it's a difference in design. Psychologist Elaine Aron introduced the idea of the highly sensitive person, describing roughly 15 to 20% of people whose nervous systems are built to take in emotional and sensory information with far more intensity than average. These aren't people who are simply being dramatic. Their internal volume knob for feeling is turned up higher than most. Here's where it gets interesting. Brain imaging studies on highly sensitive individuals show heightened activity in regions tied to empathy and self-awareness, especially the insula and the brain's mirror neuron network. In plain terms, their brains are wired to register emotional signals more strongly and hold onto them longer. That's why a film scene that barely registers for one person can completely undo another. Why a song can stop someone mid-sentence. Why a small, unexpected kindness, a stranger holding a door, a friend remembering something small you mentioned weeks ago, can bring tears in an instant. It isn't performance. It's a nervous system doing precisely what it was built for, picking up frequencies most people tune out entirely. And that sensitivity doesn't stop at noticing. It often becomes feeling on someone else's behalf. Psychologists describe this as emotional mirroring. When watching someone in pain doesn't just register intellectually, it lands in the body. A tightening chest, a sudden lump in the throat, tears arriving before any conscious decision is made. For highly empathic people, someone else's sadness isn't a story they're observing from a distance. It's an experience they're partly living through. This explains something many sensitive people struggle to put into words: why a normal social gathering can leave them completely drained while it energizes everyone else in the room. They weren't simply present. They were absorbing every emotional undercurrent moving through that space, whether they meant to or not. There's a cost to feeling this way, and it isn't just intensity, it's duration. Most people experience an emotion, process it, and move on within hours or a day. For sensitive criers, the emotion often doesn't fully leave. A conversation gets replayed at midnight. An old memory resurfaces with the same emotional charge it carried years ago. Psychology calls this emotional rumination, and for highly sensitive people, it isn't a choice they're making. It's closer to a reflex they can't switch off. But that lingering isn't purely a burden. It's often the very thing that produces depth. Many of history's most insightful writers, artists, and thinkers describe themselves as deeply, almost uncomfortably, sensitive. The same trait that brought them to tears easily also let them see further into the human condition than people who processed emotion quickly and moved on. Carrying feeling longer isn't a failure to cope. It's a more demanding, more thorough way of making sense of experience. Eventually, that accumulated feeling needs somewhere to go. For years, science assumed tears were purely a social signal. Newer research paints a more physical picture. Emotional tears, distinct from the ones that simply keep your eyes moist, actually carry traces of stress hormones, including cortisol. Crying may be one of the body's literal mechanisms for releasing built-up emotional pressure. That's why people often feel lighter afterward, as if something tightly wound has finally loosened. For those who cry more easily, this release simply happens more often, not because something is wrong with them, but because their emotional load builds faster and needs to be discharged more regularly. A pressure valve that opens when it isn't a flaw. It's the system working exactly as intended. And here's what rarely gets said about these people. They tend to be remarkable in the relationships that matter most. They listen with real presence, not performed patience. They sense what's unspoken in a room before anyone names it. They've usually had to learn emotional language early, simply to survive their own inner world, and that fluency makes them extraordinary at understanding other people's. They haven't built armor around themselves. They've stayed open, permeable, fully exposed to both the beauty and the grief that life offers. So maybe it's worth rethinking what strength actually looks like. Maybe it isn't the stone-faced person who never flinches. Maybe real strength is staying open enough to still feel everything, even after the world has repeatedly told you not to. If this changed how you think about the people who cry easily in your life, or about yourself, share this with someone who needs to hear it and leave a comment. Do you see easy tears as weakness or as a hidden kind of strength?